Welcome back. This is the Kelly Roach Show, and I am excited to have Lou Diamond here with me today. Hey, Lou.
Excited to be here, Kelly. This is going to be fun.
We're going to talk about the Speakeasy Method today. We're going to talk about connecting, converting. We're going to talk about how to make podcasting such a more powerful part of building your business and your brand. You have been helping companies all over the world to have more success in every conversation, in sales, in communication. How did you land on doing this work?
Great question. I've always been pretty chatty, not going to lie. But I also recognized in my whole career of sales that I was obsessed with connecting with people. Mm-hmm. Connection was always the thing that I was about, whether I was a young kid trying to connect different groups of friends, to being in business and trying to connect the work that I was doing and help companies better network, to helping in sales and connecting to all the different clients and trying to grow the business. Connection has always been a key part. And I've been so obsessed with it that I kind of wanted to figure out where every connection begins. Mm-hmm. And that obsession led to a lot of the work that I do, a lot of the speaking that I talked about, and I drilled down to it, and it came down to one really simple place. Every connection in our lives begins with a good conversation. Mm-hmm. Every time we connect with someone, it started with a good conversation. Going back even to when you were like a little kid talking to mommy and daddy, that was a good conversation. The first friend you made, the first job interview you got, anything you've ever done. Yet we all know, Kelly, not every conversation we have is a good one. And not every conversation leads to the connections we intend for them to hopefully do.
Yeah.
But I thought of this contrarian thought. What if it did? What if every time we had a conversation, it led to getting the job, getting the promotion, winning the business, closing the sale, getting the first date to turn into a second date, whatever it might be. And I kind of figured out through a lot of work and through a lot of the communication, including the vehicle you and I are talking on right now through podcasting, that it has nothing to do with actually what you have to say, nor does it have anything to do with what you need to do. It has everything to do with how you need to be. And that became the Speakeasy methodology that I speak about, talk about, help people understand so they can connect, engage, and win every time they have a conversation.
Yeah, no, I love that. You are speaking my language. We talk a lot about the personal evolution of self-leadership and how much that is about who you're being, and that affects what you're doing and the result you get from it. So you help to transform teams and companies by understanding these principles that you just talked about. And what I would love to know are, what are some of the things that you see right off the bat when a company comes to you and they're like, our sales team isn't performing, or we're not getting the results that we want? What are some of the things that you address right away that you know are things that are really unintentionally, but having a big impact on them not getting the results that they want? Like, what are some of the first course corrections that you do?
So the thing that I actually do is I know the 6 ways you need to be, which is the Speakeasy ways, and each of them have basically symptoms that we try to look at. And to your very astute point, the first thing I'm looking for, which is the first way you need to be in every conversation, which is to be curious. And this actually has to go with the language that everybody communicates within the organization, whether it's a sales meeting, an internal client meeting, meeting with your internal team to try and see how things are. I look at this very astute language piece, which is, are you talking and telling all the time? Or are you asking and listening? Yeah. When we're young, we think that we actually have authority and power when we come from talking and telling. Think about it. The first teachers that told us 2 + 2, a doctor tells you what you have, or a lawyer tells you good advice. But the reality is that as you get older and you mature, the talking and telling, think of it from a parenting point of view. I know you have a young child who's like, 10 years old. There's only so much you can talk and tell without it actually getting through. The more you start telling someone to do something that doesn't work. But when you start to realize that there's more power in asking really powerful questions and understanding and listening first versus talking, you will see the effect of connecting much faster than you would in the talking telling piece. The observation, I used to go on sales pitches with organizations and see, are they going to talk and tell about all the great things they do and have done in the past or have done for other brands? Or are they going to really focus on asking really good questions and understanding what that organization is all about and how maybe they can help them in that regard? It is that initial form of conversation, and a lot of it comes out with just basic questions on what was the last conversation you had with one of your clients? What was the last email you sent out to somebody? We assess and look at all of this stuff and try and understand how we get from talking and telling into that asking and listening space. That's the first thing that I pretty much do wherever I am. And the change is hard. It's harder than you think it is, because a lot of people just feel they need to talk about how great they are when they don't realize that when they actually ask those questions and then they solve problems. The business that I learned I'm exchanging, which I know you appreciate very much, Kelly, is that the currency of connection is help. And if you can figure out how you can help another human being, you will bring those worlds together. And that starts with just the way that you start out and being curious in conversations.
So good. So good. I literally feel like you were sitting in on my team meeting. You and I talked at 8 o'clock this morning. I went and got on Miracle Hour with my team, and we just had a very long discussion about asking better questions and speaking less in the sales process. And I love that your method starts with that as the first thing, because I think that there's still such a misconception that your pitch or the language that you use or the key phrase or whatever is going to be the thing that gets people to buy. And I think more than anything, people seek to be understood. They want to be seen and heard. And so it's so much less about your product, your program, your service, and so much more about how does this person feel in your presence? And to your point, the curiosity of asking questions and being present and truly listening, I think that is the thing that people wouldn't say that's what they're looking for if you ask them. But then if you look at their behavior, that's the thing that drives their feeling of that no.
Yeah. And think of it this way, Kelly. You came from the B2B world. I used to call it the logo slide of death, where the first thing that they put up when they're introducing themselves is, here is every logo of every company that we have ever done business for.
Yeah.
And I said, you have to understand what that slide really means. What that slide really means is, here is everyone that's not you, because you're the only logo not up there. And I always found it amazing that people would lead with this slide versus really the only logo that matters is the people that you're talking to in the pitch in that company. It is that mindset, it is that thinking, and to make sure that the whole culture is all about understanding this is about making a connection, not a sale. It's about making numerous sales and stronger connections.
Yeah, super powerful. Okay, I want to hear, I don't know if we'll have time to go through all 6 of the steps, but give us at least a couple more, and then people can come listen to your podcast, they can read your book, they can follow you online, and they can get the whole method. But give me at least like 1 or 2 of the other steps in the 6-step Speakeasy method.
I am going to give the one which has to do with be super. It's like the 5th or 6th one that I address. Being super, it isn't breaking out a cape and flying off the ceiling or saving the day. Being super is unleashing what the most unique part about yourself is, that everybody gets a chance to share that. It is going in and making sure that a piece of your charisma comes out. And by the way, you need to elevate it a little bit in every conversation to make the connection. It takes energy. So being super, you need a little bit of energy. And that energy, Kelly, is an important part, because here's the reality. No one on this entire planet wants to connect with a dud. We need to elevate that conversation with a little bit of energy. You don't have to be an extrovert like you or me, or shouting from the rooftop or speaking on stages. You just have to bring it up one notch to understand that it's going to take that connection. So you got to be super to do that. And understanding what your superpowers are is something that I work with all the organizations to help them deal with that. And they can find out more at Speakeasy and all the different methods that I talk about on how you need to be in every conversation.
That's really powerful. I think about it in the terms of getting in state, right? When you're getting ready to interact with someone, it's getting in state. And I think that managing your own energy, especially because for like all of us now, you're speaking to thousands of people that run their own businesses. You're going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and there's an energetic vibration and flow in every single meeting. And you really do have to reset your energy in each conversation. Otherwise, you're coming into this conversation and you're not even really focused on what the purpose and the way that you need to be with this person that's in front of you, because you're still thinking about what just happened. You're thinking about what's about to happen. You're thinking about all these different things. So I think that's a really, really good reminder on a lot of levels. yes, about your superpowers, but also what you're really saying is like, you have to be in state for the interaction that
Yes.
you're having.
Completely
Yeah.
agree. And by the way, this isn't just applicable for sales. I'm a sales and leadership coach. This has to do with how you lead your
Hmm.
organization as an entrepreneur. All of the tactics that
Oh,
you would
yeah.
give to your best client, you need to give to your best people, which are the people that serve you. And you are serving them every day. Show the respect, show the appreciation, show the gratitude, all of those components that really come out from what great leaders do. So just an important message for everybody out there when they're thinking about, I have to be super externally and representing what the company's about, and I got to be super internally, maybe even more importantly, so that everybody can feed off of that culture that they have.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you brought that up. We've been having a lot of leadership conversations on the show. And I think this is one of the areas that leaders of smaller businesses really fall short. They, get on camera and they're teaching for their clients and they're serving and they're speaking and they're getting on stages and then they show up for their own team and they're exhausted and they're stressed out and they're not put together and they're not bringing the energy of like, okay, is this person going to leave this meeting like fired up and excited to build your company for you? Or did you just show them this like beat up version of yourself that makes them feel low energy, you're low energy, and then, then you wonder why the company is stagnating. So I'm really happy that you brought that up because I think that, I wrote a whole book on it. I'm like this because I think that, if you want to do something great, you have to align with other people. But people don't just come work for you and build your company for you because you hired them. They'll go leave and work for someone else that is going to invest in them growing and being motivated to work towards a compelling future. And so to your point, when you think of selling, it's just as important that you're selling internally as selling externally. Is there anything you want to add to that? I'm so happy that you just brought that into the conversation.
You need to understand the value of when you're connecting, what connecting actually is, right? I say the connection, the currency is help. Well, what are we trying to exchange? We are trying to bring worlds together. That's literally what's happening. I see people really uniquely. We had an earlier conversation today, Kelly. I learned where you're from. I know where your world is. I know where, kind of where you live. You got a little dog, you got a kid, you got a musician of a husband. You've got all this component. This is in your world. And this is how I see people. I see them for the assets that are there. And I'm doing that because when I see someone else, I'm trying to figure out where those people connect. But there's a whole part of your world that I have no idea what's going on. The only way I'm going to get in through that world is by embracing all these components of what you need to do in a conversation and have more conversations. As a leader, you need to understand you have conversations with everybody in the organizations, and you need to have that connection and understand all those different worlds that you're trying to bring together so that they understand what your strengths are too. You got to let out what's in your world too. It can't just be a one-sided thing. You're not going to make the connection as a leader if you don't open up and share what's important to you and what's valuable in your world today, as well as what's important to them as well. It is not a one-directional way that we're trying to deal with this. Leadership is a growing, living thing that is a two-way street and an avenue that flows back and forth. That is the way organizations grow. The more conversations you have with the people that you have in your team. And this is not just sending out emails and mass messages, people. This is about actually connecting and speaking to the people in your organizations. And to your very astute point, Kelly, preserving your energy. I've been joking about this a little bit because I drink an insane amount of water. You need a lot of energy. People, you need that energy to be fluid, pun intended, drink your fluids all day long because that energy is important. I state this, we'll shift this to what you and I do. We both host podcast programs. I try to embody all of the ways you need to be to speak easy every single time you connect via this vehicle, because for many entrepreneurs who have podcast programs or are using this is a platform not just to connect to an audience like we're speaking to right now, but also to the human being I'm talking to right now. Kelly and I are building a connection. And that's where this vehicle can be used to grow your business, which is a really fun thing that we kind of spawned our business off into because we did such a good job of it. So it's a leadership, communication, and sales vehicle, podcasting, but we don't ever think about it because what it really is it's just having more conversations with many, many people.
Yeah. And to that point, there are so many people listening to the show today that have podcasts, and they would love to learn how to make better connections with their podcast and to grow it more quickly and make a bigger impact and monetize it in more ways. And I know that you have your production company, you are helping people to do this, both front and back end. So talk to us a little bit about some of the ways that the people listening to the show today can go further faster with their podcast.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's so many misconceptions about podcasting. On my main show, Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, that show, which Kelly's going to be a guest on sometime in December of 2024, you will have the opportunity to hear all these different people. We have learned so many different things about different people from the show, but we also recognize that the show is actually helping to funnel in business opportunities, from speaking opportunities and getting on stages of people who are listening to podcasts, but also from the people we were talking to, we found connections and opportunities on where we can help their organization. So before I knew it, it wasn't about downloads or listens or any of those things. It was actually, how do I utilize this incredible brand forum where I can market my own business, market my services, show the connections of the people that I'm connected to. I mean, if you don't think I'm going to brag about the fact that I'm on the Kelly Roach's show, I mean, you got to be kidding. But that's a great marketing opportunity. And I say this, not only having a show is very valuable for your business and helping to establish relationships, but I can go into any organization and have a conversation with any CEO at any point in time because we've built out this brand, and specifically for the ones that we know who we want to do business with. I want to make this clear. Before we opened the doors of Thrive Loud Productions, I taught a course called Speakeasy Podcast. Turn your podcast into podcast. I was showing everyone how you could monetize a show. And I took people who had over 250 episodes of podcast hosts that were out there. And they couldn't believe not only how simple it was, how easy it was to deploy, but also how many more things they wanted to do with it that they started to expand upon. And that was what I wanted to open the door on. A lot of people who don't realize, like, yes, there's a ton of podcasts out there. And this is not about trying to get gazillions of downloads. You can't all be famous, former NFL cheerleaders and amazing entrepreneurs like Kelly can be. But what I can tell you is that the consistency of having these conversations and sharing them is incredible content that will open doors and relationships to grow your business. This is a business top of funnel vehicle. And most people need to understand how to utilize that, not in a purposeful every single time, because trust me, not every guest we have on the show is a target. We have a formula that we figured out and a system that we deploy, that we teach to all of our hosts. And that's kind of a cool thing that we can't believe actually is a thing, but it embraces all of those things I talked about at the beginning, so you can connect, engage, and win with these great conversations in the way you need to be.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I agree. I think that especially once you've been doing a podcast for a while, a lot of people kind of just get in this cycle where like they keep putting out shows, but like it's not going anywhere, like nothing's really happening. What would be like one or two tips that you would give the listeners today if they feel like they've been putting out a show for a while? It's kind of just like, they're going through the motions, but they need to like revive how they're using their podcast as a business growth tool. What would be one or two of the tips that you would give them, Lou?
I love this question more than anything else. And by the way, those people who went through that Speakeasy podcast course, we developed what we call the PMM, a podcast monetization map, where we actually showed them what they needed to do. But one of the key things I would say is to everybody, do not pod fade, which is a popular thing. That's like, oh, I don't want to go do it anymore. I'm not getting anything out of it. What I would really do is, first of all, start listening to yourself and start realizing, like, what am I doing on this show that's working? Where am I making the connections? And who are the people I'm having conversations with? Understand like what your discography, if you would, or your podography, if that's a word that we come with, all the people that you've had, where are the opportunities? Did you miss something with them? Did you actually look to see, like, was I going after the right people, or did I promote it the right way? Did I market it in the best way possible? I always tell the people who are the hosts of shows that I'm on that they need to be on more shows, because the best part about podcasting is that if you consistently go on other programs, someone else is marketing you wherever you go. And that goes for your show as well. You make great connections with other podcast hosts. That's another question I always ask. Do you have other podcast hosts that you've been on? Have you done a home and home and been on other people's shows? But maybe most specifically is the continuing conversation. There is a cadence that I teach people on how you need to have that conversation, because I want to make it clear, even though it might be a way to open the door and put people to sell, you do not sell. on the podcast program. It is a conversation to draw the best out of your guests. It is to unleash their superpowers on your show, which is something you want to do in the Speakeasy Method, right? So I say this all the time. Like, there's some people like, hey, I want to pitch you something. Thank you for coming on my program. That is not going to work. There's a whole system on when it's appropriate and when it's applicable, because these are just conversations to everybody else. But maybe more importantly, think about what that guest is going through. If you're about helping that guest out, that is exactly what the podcast is about. How can I help this guest promote their business, promote their brand, promote their book, tell everyone about their course, tell everyone about all the great things that they do, because that is where you start to connect. And that is a representative way of how you should be selling and leading anyway. So utilize some of that. That's some of the tips that we give people when they go through it.
Really, really good. So, Lou, where do people go to learn more about the Speakeasy Method, about what you're doing from a podcast production and monetization standpoint? Where can they go to learn more?
Everyone can go check out at thriveloud.com, thriveloud.com. You can go to Thrive Loud Productions as well. It all bounces there. Everything is there. You also can get a copy of the Speakeasy book on that same site, or speakeasybook.com, to learn exactly the methods and how you can connect, engage, and win with every conversation. And we have a special promo going on right now. If you go to Thrive Lab Productions and you click the connect part, you're going to get certain discounts from coming through that, and say you came from the Kelly Roach Show. And that will help you with at least a 10 to 15% discount, depending on the product you're getting.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, Lou, I think what you're doing is super important. I think that entrepreneurs are the hardest working people on the planet, and they're having lots of conversations already. But I think figuring out how to make those conversations more meaningful, more impactful, get a better result, create a better connection is just a great use of anyone's time. So I recommend everyone check out the book, and we'll put the links to all of your podcasts and to the website and everything down below. Thank you, Lou, for coming on the show today. It was great to have you.
Truly an honor to be here. Make sure to check out Kelly Roach on Thrive Loud as well. Get to see what she's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the show. And just a reminder that sharing is caring. Pass this episode along to an entrepreneur or business leader that you know that would like to connect more and convert more often. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.